What's up guys, good morning, welcome back to the channel, welcome back to another great project that we have for you today. Today we're going to be talking about the Hyundai Accent once again. One thing that if you guys don't know, this guy is the base model, it's 2014 Hyundai Accent, and it does not have cruise control unfortunately. So yeah, like I said, no cruise control, and quite honestly, all our other vehicles spoil us because they have cruise control and like all kinds of other features, and you really don't know how hard it is to drive until you don't have cruise control, or I should say other way around, how easy it is to drive with cruise control. So we wanted to add that in onto this vehicle. So we actually ended up picking up, guys, is the Rostra electronic cruise control kit. They have specific modules or specific kits for different vehicles that don't come with cruise control. So this is the one specifically for us. I'll put the link down below so you guys can see what it is and where I got it from. But you can pretty much get it from almost anywhere. Part number is 2509628. And that's going to be for Hyundai Accents 2010 and newer, Hyundai Elantras from 2012 to 2016, and Kia Rios 2012 to 2016. So this is what we're going to be using today to get this thing going. First things first, guys, what you want to do before you get started is to make sure you take out your kit, which is all this stuff here on the right side of the workbench, and make sure you have all the parts necessary to complete the install, because you would just hate to get the project going and midway through or almost all the way through you find out you don't have everything you need. Ask me how I know, it's horrible. We're going to go through this manual here today and just make sure we got everything. First things first, we need the cruise control module, which is this guy right here. Next up, we have a switch harness, which is actually this one up here at the top. Then followed by the pedal harness, which is this one at the far top left. And then we got the control switch, which is the one right here in the middle, which is what you'll actually be using to turn off and on. And then you got the diagnostics harness, which is this guy here. And last but not least, the clutch harness, which is that one there, but we won't need that because we are automatic. In addition to the kit parts, it also has a list of recommended tools. So yeah, I'll just run through that just to give you a kind of idea of what you'll be needing today. So it recommends a voltmeter, or a multimeter is essentially what they're wanting. A trim removal tool, which is right there, a 10mm wrench, 14mm wrench, some drill bits, specifically a 3/8 or a 9.5mm wrench. Then next thing, it just says some soldering tools. I decided not to actually solder this, well, conventional solder. I have here is a little heat gun. I actually probably do another video on this guy, just a little review on how it works and what it does, but it's freaking amazing. This guy pairs hand in hand with these little solder splice connectors. These guys make it real simple to do actual wire soldering. You'll see this in a later video or a sooner video, depending on what order I post. So first things first, with any project that you're working with electronics, you want to make sure you disconnect the negative cable on the battery, which I've done so already, and put it underneath this glove, because you don't want to pop any fuses or mess anything up while you're rewiring or soldering and doing stuff like that. So make sure you do that. Concerning the manual, one thing I want to point out, which they actually even give a disclaimer about, is this is not a one-for-one step-by-step instruction. This is just kind of like a general instructions, because it doesn't tell you exactly what to do. It just shows you what is what and where to go. So you got to kind of work through it like that. As you can see here, all the pages are just like a general diagram with a photo of what you should be looking at, and it gives you like little notes here and there of what specific color wires you're going to be connecting to. But other than that, it doesn't tell you step by step. So that's what this video is for, to hopefully help you guys if you're deciding to do this for your Hyundai Accent or another vehicle similar, some type of structure to this installation. So I hope it does that for you, but without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. So first things first, per the manual here, we're going to actually go ahead and connect the pedal assembly connector. It should be just plug and play. You'll simply unplug the connector from the accelerator pedal, and you'll plug in this T-harness in between the two connections that you just disassembled. And then the last thing that you really only need to do, which is on the next page, is one splice, which we'll get to in a second. I'm gonna try my best to show you guys this underneath, but since we're working in such tight quarters, it may kind of be shaky, so I do apologize. As well as I'm actually going to remove my external mic and use the internal GoPro mic just so I can actually have some room to work with. So the audio may change from this point on, but just know it's because I'm just trying to get you guys the best view possible. Alright guys, so we made our way underneath the front dash, and as you can see, here's the brake pedal, here's the accelerator pedal, and this red connector is the one we're actually going to be removing today and putting in this T connector here. So we'll go ahead and get started. In order to get this connection off, you got to pull out towards the back of the vehicle on this red connector, and that'll release the little lock on there. So just like that, that's released. Then you should be able to pull up on it. And boom, just like that. There it is, removed. So now you'll go ahead and connect your T harness, and as you can see, you have one connector identical to that one, which is obviously going to go to the pedal itself, and the other side is going to go to that connector. There's the pedal side. And don't worry when you're installing this connector, there's not a wrong way you can put it, because it's key shaped and there's only one way it'll go in. So simply figure out which way that is, push it in, connect it, squeeze the red piece together, and there you go. Now I'm going to get a little bit further up underneath here because I got to route these wires. The idea is to get these wires through the undercarriage here, and you want to come out to where the OBD2 port and the fuse panel are, which is over here off to the left of the camera. I'll show you what I did once I get it done. Alright guys, hope you guys can see from here, but got those connectors connected as you saw. So I routed the wires up above this bracket here, this big silver bracket that holds the steering column, up and over and back over here. If you can see, there's an existing set of wires and some convoluted tubing. I just zip tied it along that same pathway to keep all the wires away from all the pedals and whatnot. Found the main harness that goes through the firewall, wrapped it around there a couple times. I think I'm actually going to mount the box itself, hopefully you can see, up here. See if I can get you a better angle. Yeah, right up there on that empty bracket. I think that's where the clutch would normally mount to, but I think I'm going to mount the brain or the control module to that. For now, I left the connectors hanging, because once I get that guy installed, then I'll stick them up somewhere and zip tie them out of the place. So next up on the directions is the OBD2 connector, or the T-splice, which as you can see here. And pretty much it's an entire harness, which you don't have to do any soldering at this point either. And we're going to be connecting it up to the OBD2 port. There's actually some additional instructions for if you have a manual vehicle. There's another harness over there which has a yellow cable, and you'll have to actually connect that in. But we're not manual again, so we only got to worry about this guy. Here's your OBD2 port. You pull off this little panel here and you have access to your fuse box. And simply what we're going to be doing is just pushing this out of its little hole. You'll connect this female side to that guy, and then now you'll have a new male side which will come through. And this already has a pre-spliced set of wires which will go to your control module. So once again, real simple. If you can't really see, on each side of this OBD2 port, there's a little lip or a little notch, and you actually have to push these two notches inward, and this should fall out the back side. So we'll do that now. There we go. There's one, and there's two. And now, as you can see, I just pull it out the back, and there's your connector. So now simply just connect the female side like I said. These are keyed, so there's only one way it'll go. Connect the female to the existing male from the vehicle. Make sure it's nice and secure. And what I'm going to do, guys, this doesn't actually have to be done. Since this guy doesn't have a locking connector on that part, you can kind of just wiggle it free like that. I'm going to go ahead and put a zip tie around the center of the connector, just kind of holding it together and just making sure I don't have to worry about this guy coming apart while you're driving, because we are dealing with cruise control, which is your gas and your brake, and those are two extremely important things you need to be safe on the road. So just as an added layer of security, you can zip tie this through the center, get it through both connectors, and cinch it down. And there you go, it'll just hold it there. Next up, it has the red ignition wire that we are going to actually have to do some splicing on. And as you can see, this is that same ignition wire that came from the pedal harness. And this guy here, hopefully you can see, there's actually a pink wire on this one. It actually kind of looks salmon. To give myself more room to work with, I went ahead and disconnected it and unraveled that electric tape. And actually the wire is pretty pink. I think it's just a discoloration from age. Connector, remember, connects like that. So this pink wire here is the one we're going to be splicing into. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay, so how these solder splices work, guys, is you actually cut off the ends or remove the insulation on both ends of the wire. Since this guy's already connected, I'm actually just going to cut it a ways up in half and then do the same like I did here. I'll tie these two together on one side and then leave the other side blank, and you'll end up sliding this guy all the way into the center, where, if hopefully you guys can see, this guy here will sit right over that middle solder, and as well as the other side, which will be on this side. And once you heat this up using only a heat gun, that solder in the middle will actually melt, solder these wires together. In addition, the remaining heat shrink out here, which is a specific adhesive, will seal off this connector and make it waterproof and a really durable connection. And there you go, guys. Now you can see I went ahead and cut the wire, spliced off the insulation so we have new clean wires on each side, as well as with our ignition wire. So I'm gonna go ahead and tie these two together on this side, and then this one will stand alone by itself, and we'll connect the solder splice over the top of all three of them. Hopefully you guys can see, but went ahead and put that solder splice underneath and used the heat gun. And as you can see, the middle portion, which is the solder, that melts, and then actually connected all three wires with a nice strong solder bond. And the outside of the connector itself is just a heat shrink material that also insulates and waterproofs. So that shrank down and sealed that off as well. So we're good to go there, and we'll move on from here. It's time to make our connections for the control switch mounting, which is this guy right here, which is what you'll be mounting to the side of your steering column. But it gives you another graphic here. This is the harness up top that comes from the brain, and it already has these connectors made. So as you can see here, it says yellow, black and purple, red and purple. So there you go, there's a yellow, black and purple, red and purple, so on and so forth. For the wires that come from the actual control switch, they don't have a connector quite yet, but there are the black and white connector that it comes with. So this just gives you the diagram of where you're going to be actually mounting which wire to which wire. But here's the weird part, because you don't want to actually stick these into the connections right now, because you still have to drill that hole in the steering column to route this through and connect this guy up later on. And if you put these connectors on, you won't be able to fit through the proper hole size, and this guy won't mount securely and sturdy. So we're going to have to connect them over here without the connectors, connect them all to the brain box just down there on the floor, and actually take it for a test drive before we do the final connections. That's what it recommends you doing. So yeah, once again, to reiterate, don't put them into the connectors quite yet, because you still don't have this through the steering column. You won't be able to fit through with these, and you'll screw up the hole size, and you'll probably have multiple holes, which you don't want. We'll go ahead and just kind of temporarily connect these guys. So I'll start with the black connector, which is the one over here. So it says the black cable goes to the black cable from the control switch. So we'll just push that in there temporarily. The blue and yellow goes to the red. So we'll go ahead and grab the red, and we'll put that in there. Then the other blue and yellow goes to the blue wire. So then we take the other one, which is the white connector over here, and they say the red and purple wire, which is this one on the far left, that guy goes to the green. Then the middle black and purple wire, that guy is going to go to the yellow. And last but not least, the yellow and green wire on the far right is going to go to the brown. So again, guys, as you can see, I don't have the connectors on there. I simply just have them connected freely because you want to test it out once again. So we're almost getting to the point of testing it out, but we'll move on to one more step before that. Because now that we got all those connections made temporarily, it's time to do the testing out. So as you can see here, we're going to start connecting up all the different connectors, starting with this one here. This one's simply going to go all the way to the far left connection there. That'll click right in. Then next up we'll have the other one that came from the control switch. That's going to go right there in the middle. And last but not least, the other one coming from the pedal switch is going to go all the way over here, hopefully you can see, but to the far right connector. You're going to have a missing connector here, which is not really missing. That's where the clutch wires would normally go, which is the other piece that came with this kit. And since this is an automatic, we don't have to worry about that guy. What I did real quick, guys, before we actually go test it out, is I actually just put some electric tape over those exposed wires. I didn't want them touching while we're out there trying to test the system. So yeah, I'd recommend doing that before you plug back in your battery. Other than that, we got all the connections made and just sitting out on the floor for now. So I think it's time to actually go test this guy out. So I went ahead and connected the battery, got back in the car. So without further ado, let's get going. Okay, so we're on the highway now, and we got the cruise control module here in my hand. So first things first, let's see if it turns on. There's a little green light. It's kind of hard to see, but I'll try to show you in the light here. So we have on the top side is your set button. Then in the middle, which is the button I clicked on the side, which is your on-off button. And in the bottom is your acceleration and resume button. So essentially, if this works, right now I'm going about 65. Hopefully you can see the speedometer. But if this works, I should be able to hit this button and take my foot off the pedal. So I took my foot off the pedal. And heck yeah. Heck yeah, we are cruising, guys. We are officially cruising. Can't see my feet. Tried to lift it up right there, but no feet on the pedals, and we are cruising. So if I tap this button on the bottom, which is Excel, I should be able to accelerate, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. Oh, we're accelerating. This is freaking awesome. Alright, we're about at 72 now, and yeah, still haven't had to touch the pedals whatsoever. Ah, wow, this is awesome. I'm not saying I doubted myself, but I just didn't know. I just didn't know, to be honest. So, we got to test all the features on this guy. So, as we know now, it works to cruise, and it works to accelerate. So, next up, let's go ahead and see if we can coast. So, if I hold this button up top, I should be able to slow down. Yep, sure enough, starting to slow down. Now at about 68. Now if I press the brake, it should turn it off. So press the brake. Yep, slowing down. Okay, now if I click this bottom button, it should resume to 68. It's working. So yeah, it's accelerating right now back to 68 miles an hour. So yeah, that's working too. I didn't think this was gonna work, guys. I'm sorry. It was just something that looked too good to be true online, and yeah, I knew I was gonna be able to install it without any issues, but just having it work flawlessly like this, it's crazy. Alright guys, so now that we have proved this thing working, I'm just gonna go ahead and keep cruising on home. So yeah, it works, guys. It works. And just like that, guys, we are back. I'm like freaking excited right now because I honestly didn't think it was gonna work. Not to say that I didn't think that I couldn't do it, but I just didn't know. It was too good to be true. It was too good to be true. Now that we are done, we know it's worked. Now we just got to move on to the next part, which is finalizing the installation. So again, pop your hood, remove the negative cable on the battery, which I have not done quite yet, but I will. We're gonna have to tuck up all these wires nicely up underneath there. And then as well as, you'll see here in a second, we're going to be taking this guy off to get ready to mount the actual controls to where it's going to be for its final resting place. Before you fully remove that shroud on the back of the steering wheel, do one thing first. Take your little control switch here and just kind of mock it up to kind of get an idea of where you want it. So being that I'm a little bit taller, it's kind of hard to see up underneath this portion of the steering wheel. My wife drives this vehicle more than I do, so I'm trying to figure out where I would want to put it. I don't want it too far down where it'll interfere with my knee or her knee if she's driving, but then again, I don't want it too far up where it'll interfere with this guy up here. So just try to find that happy spot that you would like to put this guy in, and not only do you want to know which way up and down you want to go, but as well as just kind of how much you want it to tilt forward and back, because this shroud is not perfectly straight, so depending on where you drill your hole will determine both up, down, and left and right. Alright, so now with the battery disconnected here, we're getting ready to move on to the next part, and this is where your two screws are. I've already removed them, but there's one there, there's one back over there. So simply to remove that shroud, as you can see, I already got it separated. Just use that pry bar, that plastic pry bar that you guys have, and you'll just kind of wiggle it in between the two pieces. I found it easiest to go right underneath the blinker one. Gave you the most room to actually fidget the pry bar in there. Then you'll just pull down on it. One side will pop down. You repeat that same process on the other side, and then simply just kind of finagle it through, kind of pull it forward and down at the same time, getting it around all the different pieces. You have the little handle at the bottom, so you want to make sure you get that handle through. Just work it little by little. Take your time, and you'll get it out just like that. Now with this guy removed, you're going to go ahead and start getting the location ready to drill the hole. I marked my spot that I want to put this in with the drill bit itself. Just kind of made a little scratch mark on it. So that's where I'm actually going to be drilling the hole. Alright, so there's my hole there, my 3/8 hole or 9.5 millimeter hole. You're going to go ahead and grab the diagram itself. There'll be a page that'll show you specifically the order. There's a couple of washers and lock washers as well as nuts, and it'll tell you the orientation to put them in. Alright guys, so I got my switch installed, as you can see here, and this is where you'll use that 14 millimeter wrench to tighten the nut on the back side down. Be careful, do not over tighten it, because it's literally just gonna crack your shroud itself, and you don't want that to happen. Now that you got your switch through the shroud, you can go ahead and actually connect the little connectors to those wires which are free, the ones that we temporarily mounted earlier to do the test run. So yeah, you'll just literally just push them in the back all the way until you hear a little click, and that secures them into place. So that's snug, that's not going anywhere. So now we're gonna have to put this back on and route the rest of the wiring back down through to the bottom. Alright guys, hopefully you can see we got this guy installed and all the wires up and out of the way. If you can see this wire coming up across the way, that's the pedal wire. Here's the OBD2 wire, or the harness that comes from there. There's a lot of excess wires, as you can see here, but I just had to route them back and forward, and then zip tie each wire bundle together. And then there's actually a harness that's right back here behind the fuse panel that goes straight up. So then I just zip tied those multiple wire bundles to that, so it can keep them all up and out the way. Here's the brain box, or the control module. I mounted that guy directly to the harness that's coming through the firewall. I wasn't able to mount it to that one metal point up there because I would have to drill holes in the metal, and I don't have a drill to get up into this small spot. That's good to go, and we don't have to worry about it interfering with the pedals. And back up top, like you saw earlier, we got the control switch mounted up. It's nice and firm. So this control switch doesn't do like some of the other ones where the whole switch will move up and down. It's literally just the buttons: on, off, accelerate, decelerate, and so on and so forth. I managed to find a perfect position for it, as if I'm driving right now. Sometimes I drive with my knee, so I can lift my knee up, touch the steering wheel, not anywhere near the cruise control switch. And as you can see right there, I can see the controls, I can see the light, I can see everything I need to touch from here. And it's going to be even better for my wife. She's a little bit shorter, so she'll have a better view at all of that stuff. And of course, she won't have as long as legs like I do, so she doesn't have to worry about getting her knees interfering with that as well. With that, guys, I think we're actually done. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, we are done with today's video. We are done installing the cruise control module on this 2014 Hyundai Accent. I hope you found this video very beneficial. Hopefully you guys are now more comfortable in doing projects like this yourself. If you're not, it's okay. Hit that subscribe button, turn on your notification, because I'll go ahead and do it for you, and you guys can watch and follow along. But I'm gonna go ahead and head inside because it's time to eat. It's time to get out of this heat, and my back is actually starting to hurt sitting in this seat. So with that, guys, I'll see you on the next one.